This is Eric Gusser with ericgusser.com. Today we're going to talk about the Trayvon Martin case and the DNA results that were just released today, September 19th, 2012. There were several pieces of evidence that were examined. The gun and the holster were examined for any trace of DNA. Now the DNA samples were taken from Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman had to do a buccal swab, which is a swab on the inside of your mouth, and they took fingernail scrapings from Trayvon Martin to compare it to any of the evidence that was brought to them from the police department. Now the evidence was compared against 1 in 11 quadrillion samples of Caucasians, 1 in 1.5 quintillion blacks, and 1 in 57 quadrillion Hispanics. That way they have a huge pool in order to eliminate the number of people whose DNA it may be. Now the holster was sampled, and there were 3 DNA hits on the holster. 1 was George Zimmerman's and 2 were unknown people. That's a big deal because remember, George Zimmerman said that Trayvon Martin reached for the holster and he had to shoot him. That's not very good for Zimmerman. The trigger was tested, there were no DNA hits. The slide was tested, there was no DNA hits. And the grip was tested on the gun. That's the part you actually hold the gun. The grip was tested and there was DNA from 2 people. 1 for Zimmerman and 1 from someone unknown that's not Trayvon Martin. Now the 2 pieces of evidence that everyone is concentrating on is that the grip had DNA on it and the holster had DNA, both from George Zimmerman and none from Trayvon Martin. That's a big deal that people are talking about, and we're looking to see how this evidence will come out in court because it's going to be interesting on building the self-defense claim. Now one thing that we have to be careful of when we're dealing with this case is a lot of people will jump on and say, well, Trayvon Martin didn't touch the gun, this is conclusive evidence. Not necessarily. Because DNA, just because you touch something, does not necessarily mean that you left DNA. Because DNA has to be from blood, sweat, or saliva. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will leave DNA if you reach for it or touched it. Now that's going to definitely be George Zimmerman's argument, but I know that with his case and the way it's come out and the way things have been discussed, his argument's looking pretty weak right now. Another issue that they're going to have to contend with is that according to the report, which I read from cover to cover, that Trayvon Martin had contact wounds. Those are very, very close shots that were taken of him. Now, George Zimmerman is going to say that he was wrestling with Trayvon and that he shot him at close range because he was wrestling with him. This could possibly help him in his claim because it's saying that it was a very close range shot, which means he was not far away as some people speculated. So this is going to be a very interesting case to watch. Make sure you come back to ericgusser.com for more information, where every time there's an update, we'll try to get on the air to you and let you know exactly what's going on. This is Eric Gusser with ericgusser.com. Sign up for our newsletter, come back every week for updates, and make sure you tell your friends about us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for your support.